Right,
Okay,
yeah.
so I'm going to call this meeting to order, and we have the minutes from May 6th. What would you like to do?
I'd like to move that we adopt the minutes from May 6th.
I'll second that.
Okay, any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, moving on. We have bills for payment. We have warrants 24, the payroll 24P, Conservation Commission number 9, and from the Reappraisal Fund number 10.
I'll move we approve bills for payment warrants 24, 24P, Conservation Commission number 9, and reappraisal number 10.
I'll second that. Geraldine.
Okay, any discussion? Let's see. Warrant 24 was for $27,763.59. Most of it going into health insurance, payroll transfers, our monthly sheriff's bill, highway department supplies and repairs, Green Mountain Power, and some of the regular monthly bills that we have. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay. Let's see. We have some visitors, and Maeve, Jenks, do you want to take the floor and let us know what you're doing with the playground?
Yes. Hi. Okay. Hi, everyone.
Hi, thanks for joining us.
Absolutely. Thank you for inviting us. We're very excited. I say us because we also have Lily DePino here and Lance Nieper. And I believe Julian Egan is also going to try and join us shortly as well. So we are part of the Dummerston Leadership Council, which was developed as a group of parents and teachers and member of the community with the intent of, really focusing on what the goal is of our school now that we don't necessarily have a select board that's looking at the focus of our school needs necessarily. And so this is a different type of board to kind of be able to oversee what our school needs are. And one of the things that came up in our brainstorming was the fact that we really are in need of an updated playground and outdoor educational space. And we have a lot of space. It's not that we, are limited on our space. And especially, that's kind of brings us to what brought us to the select board is a lot of that space that we have access to is now town property. And so, it felt very natural to make the town a part of this process in the beginning stages, which is where we are. So we want to be able to get input and feedback from everyone from the town and see what our needs are and our goals. Obviously, our wishes for this playground is to be around for a long time. And so we're not just looking for members of our school community to give an input. We want the entire community to give an input, whether, you have kids at the school right now or not, especially because, I think that we're looking at it to be not just a playground of the school. It's going to be some really great outdoor recreational space. Of our group, as I said, Lily is a teacher at the school and has a really great insight as far as the educational services and how we'll be utilizing the school or the outdoor space during school time. And Lance, the other gentleman that's here, him and his wife actually travel to different playgrounds with their 2 kids, and they have some really incredible insight. I had no idea how many wonderful playgrounds there were out there. And so he's got some incredible suggestions and insight. And then I bring the fact that I'm also part of the rec board. And so I look at using this space as not just the playground for the school, but really kind of a recreational zone for the entire town. The survey that we put together that we want to send out to the members of our community members of Dummerston asks for any ideas. We're kind of at that very groundwork stage of developing this space where there is no idea too big right now. So our first focus was what can we do with limited funds? considering we don't have a school budget that's passed right now, and we have really not a whole lot of safe space for the kids to use when hopefully when we go back to school in September. So our first focus was what can we do as quickly as possible to get some play and educational space ready for when September comes. And so our first look was at the wooded area and what we can do with that space as far as a hiking trail or a biking trail. And that's kind of where Lance came in. I know I just rattled off a lot. So before I pass this off to Lance, does anybody have any questions or thoughts or input? And I will take a pause. No?
No, I mean, I think that's a great overview, Maeve. And yeah, and I like the, you know, the focus that it is not just for the school, but for the town. And I guess, you know, I'm curious, and I'm sure you'll talk more about this. Obviously, with playgrounds, there's different needs for 5-year-olds as opposed to, you know, 12-year-olds. So how does that all get woven into a plan or a design? Is it, you know, in different phases and that sort of thing? But I'm sure you'll get to that.
Yeah, and you know, as a kind of playground subcommittee, we've really only met, I think, once, and we've exchanged a couple emails. So this really is the early stages, and so, you know, we haven't gotten very far into development. Like I said, our biggest key was what can we do in the next couple of months here so that we have some type of space accessible to our children, hopefully when they go back to school in September. So, but absolutely we'll, you know, talk more about what could possibly happen, because my brain's been going crazy for weeks, and I know Lily and Lance's and Julian's has as well. So,
Okay, who's next?
I can talk a little bit about the trail that we're looking at. We're hoping to develop a multi-use trail, again, just to reinforce that for the community, but then also age continuum. It's where we have young individuals who could pedal without pedals, walk, hike, but then our older students who give them a little bit of a challenge too. And so we're looking how to maximize that space. And so I've reached out to a variety of trail builders and designers in the area. And a couple of names have popped up. One in particular, Curtis Fanti, who has developed some very accessible, he specializes in making sustainable trails, accessible trails, multi-use trails. And so he's agreed to kind of come out and look at the property to see where it is, to kind of maximize the space, and looking at what we could do with a very low budget. So reaching out to parent volunteers who would be willing to do the trail building aspect once we got the design. So the design and the flagging of the trail would be our major expense, just again to make sure it's sustainable. We wouldn't be cutting trees. Obviously, we'd be going around all the natural features, but then trying to really showcase those natural features so the children and the community could see that beautiful space. I've walked it a little bit just to kind of get a sense of it, but we would need to bring in somebody that really, again, specializes. So we develop a multi-use trail, limit erosion, but increase access to a whole community. And so that's one area where we're thinking that we could, again, make progress this summer while their ball fields aren't being in use, while the school playground is not being in use. And then in the hopes that we could get it ready for the fall. That might be ambitious with the work and the trail building aspect, but there's a lot of volunteers on the parent side who are ready to go once we kind of have the green light. And so we're here today to kind of ask if we could, and what are the steps are to get that green light, to do the design work, the flagging, and to kind of get the ball rolling. So I'd be happy to be a point person with a particular select board member or the committee or whatever it takes. We estimate that the design and flagging would be approximately $400. And we would, you know, obviously look for different avenues to raise those funds, but we wouldn't want to get too far down the line without your approval. Obviously, we don't want to have any expenditures and find out something that, you know, just wouldn't be possible. So we do have some people who are willing to do it. We've got some volunteers who are excited to do it. We're just now wondering what are the next steps to be able to kind of put that in motion, as Maeve said. So thank you very much for your time. Really appreciate it.
Lance, what's Curtis's last name?
Fanti, Fanti.
Okay.
He's developed some of the, if you're familiar with the Wheelock Park in Keene, he
Mm,
developed a kid-friendly, family-friendly bike park right across the street there. He also developed the food, it's called the Food Network Trails behind the YMCA. That's all his design work.
okay.
And when I talked to him, he was very excited that we would be thinking about a kid-friendly, accessible trail that could be multi-use. So he was very much on board.
Interesting.
Okay to say something? Okay. The other thing that Lance and Maeve and I put together is a survey to sort of take the temperature of the community and get some feedback from the community, get some additional ideas around what, the community at large might like to see, and as well also collect information about who might have, services that they might like to contribute to any sort of outdoor learning space that we might change or alter in the school grounds. So, and I can share that in the chat if you want me to, or I can send it to somebody if you'd like to see it ahead of time, because you might have suggestions and tips or ideas for us as well.
You mean the results of the survey?
No, the actual survey itself. We didn't want to send it out without your blessing, so to speak.
Oh, I see. So you haven't, you've designed a survey, but you haven't sent it out yet.
Right, correct.
And is that the next step in this process, is to send out the survey? Is that what we're really looking at now?
I think that makes the most sense, just so we can get so that we have a broader sense of what people might envision in an outdoor space, and also, we did sort of say, no limits, any ideas, but then it also sort of helps us sort of set like, okay, well, we're obviously not going to put in an Olympic-sized swimming pool, but what are the other things that we could do? And also I'm sure there are ideas out there that we haven't even thought of as well. And so just to bring all those ideas home to one place, and then we can sort of sift through them and say, yeah, this is a lot of people want to go in this direction. This makes a lot of sense. This is a lovely idea, but probably not going to happen. That sort of thing, just organizing the general consensus around what people might like to see.
I think, Julianne, you want to say something?
Sure. Hi, Julianne Egan, Dummerston School Principal. I'm actually on the WSESD board meeting right now too, but I wanted to pop in and just say hello. And also, just to kind of contextualize this, I think Maeve has already spoken about it. Thank you, Maeve and Lily and Lance, for speaking. There's just there's a big convergence of needs in the school around the outdoor space. And part of it has to do with just the evolving school community, the professional interest of the staff, and, the real interest and passion of the school community to really develop the space. And so there's sort of three areas coming together. One is just the interest in sort of outdoor education. We already been working kind of with this idea of forest classroom and children really learning outside in this natural setting. There's also the play space in general, which, had a huge community effort years ago to get that current play space up, and now it's been quite a while, so it's ready for sort of another another revision of what that looks like. And so that's part of trying to get a sense of what is it people want to do in that space. And then the third piece is a real growing interest in farm to school work and growing food and kind of connections to our curriculum. The science and the social studies curriculum in particular are really connected to our outdoor environment at school. So as Maeve and Lily and Lance were saying, it's the very beginning stages, but we recognize that making decisions around the school property, and then of course the town property that surrounds the school, really involves a vision of our school community, but the larger community too. So, we're excited about that. So I just wanted to say hi before I had to pop into my other meeting too, and just, really looking forward to how this is going to evolve over the next months.
That's great, Julian. That answers 3 or 4 of the questions that I had. So thank you very much
Great.
for that.
Yes, thanks.
Okay. Any other questions?
So I have a question. This is Maria.
Yep.
And it's probably not so much for Maeve, Lance, or Lily, but it's really for the other board members.
Yeah.
It was probably a year ago that, yes, we own the property, but I think it was in early 2019, we signed a 10-year lease with the Dummerston School Board. And I'm not sure, without pulling up the lease, I believe that it was up to the school board, and now it would be now up to the new district for any repairs or improvements to the property. And I don't know how that would affect these plans going forward. I think they're wonderful plans, but we signed a 10-year lease with the school board.
Yeah, that
for
was
the
exactly my question too, Maria, is so what is the process here? This is new for everybody in terms of how this evolves and who has authority to do what and.
Right, right. As I think the concept is wonderful, but I just don't know by having a lease in place. And this lease was written by a Dummerston School Board member that was an attorney. So I'm assuming it's probably a pretty solid lease. And I believe any type of repairs or improvements should be done through the school and not necessarily, even though the town owns the property, we had no responsibility. And again, the school holds all the liability. So if we improve things, clearly the liability is going to change.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure as a select board how we can facilitate this without breaking a lease that we've signed.
Yeah, well, we should look back at that.
Right.
Paul, you had something to say? Oh, I can unmute.
Well, okay, I just did.
Okay.
Thank you. My recollection is, Maria is correct, that the school deeded the property to the town. The town in turn signed a 10-year lease with the school. The other issue that, not to confuse the issue more, but my understanding is that also most school districts have signed or turned over the properties to the merged districts. And I know that in Dummerston, nobody signed the property over to the district. So I don't know what if the state in effect says, we don't care whether you signed the property over or not, whether or not the property has been in fact transferred to the new merged school district. So just to throw that in for whatever it's worth.
Have you guys talked to the district about this yet, or are you just hitting us up first?
Yeah, we have not talked to the district yet. This is really, you guys were our first step. You know, I'm not too familiar with lease laws. And so I did know that the land was being leased. Lori had sent me a copy of that lease and I reviewed it to the best of my limited knowledge. I do know that, you know, Julianne had said if it's up to the district school board that they'll be supportive of anything and everything really. I mean, I don't think they're going to look at putting any limitations on, you know, the way that we want to use the land educationally. But I would have to think that ultimately, regardless of the lease, you know, there's got to be some ultimate, the town of Dummerston, I guess, has to have some ultimate hand in deciding what happens, considering this is long-term changes potentially, not just 10-year year lease changes. But so no, we haven't gone to the other board yet. We're starting with you. I do have the lease up, and I'm happy to send it out to everyone so that we all have a chance to review it. Not necessarily at this moment, but it's certainly a valid part that I hadn't quite thought too far into. I guess I was thinking that even though the land was leased, the town still owns it and has the rights to it. So that's a very valid.
Well, they're probably not, though, if it's leased, the rights, you know.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, Lily?
'Cause I think that there's, without seeing the lease in front of me, I believe that there was a thing in there that the school district, or well, the Dummerston School Board, and ultimately now the new school district, is responsible for all maintenance, upkeep, and any type of improvements. It was pretty, I thought, in any type of repairs. So, you know, if something broke on the playground, it was going to be up to them to fix it.
Right.
It was basically, the town was, yeah, I mean, it was pretty specific, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
Lily?
Yeah, I was just going to say, I think that there's two things here that are happening. One is that Lance and Maeve and I and the Leadership Council in general are largely on a fact-finding mission to find out what the community is interested in. But then there is going to be another layer to this, is where we are going to have to go to central office, talk to Frank, and you know, then find out, first of all, how do we even begin to attempt to fund something like this, you know, whether it's fundraising, whether there are funds set aside in the district budget, when there ever is a district budget. So really we're at those first stages of fact finding, collecting information and beginning to formulate a plan so that then we can go to central office and say, or go to the district rather, and say, here's what we'd like to do. And then they'll turn around and say, that's lovely, come up with another plan. And we keep going back and forth until we find something that everybody can be comfortable with. That being said, because we're potentially using, well, because we want it to be all encompassing with Dummerston community, it was really important that we share some of our initial thoughts with all of you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It seems like without taking a vote, it seems like the select board's, you know, interested and pleased with what you're doing. And it seems like, you know, sending out your survey is a good next step, and then approaching the district, you know, with your next set of plans and ideas, and, you know, keeping us in the loop. This sounds like a good idea, but it doesn't seem, other than, you know, nodding our heads, I don't think we're in a position to do much more than that. What do the members think?
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I see, Lance, you have your hand up. I see, but I want to follow up Zeke's thought. So in you coming to us, we're initially thinking, oh, do we have responsibility? What's our responsibility and authority here? And in remembering the lease, you know, I'm remembering that we were very clear that we didn't want to have authority, responsibility, liability, you know, for it. And so that was the purpose of the lease. Certainly, it's wonderful that you're coming to us, and really significant, important that you're coming to us early on. And I would think it would behoove the project to, even in the survey and in your communications with Dummerston residents, to clarify the process and who's responsible for what, so that other people don't make the assumption that the select board is the authoritative body here, you know, that you're keeping us well informed at every stage, and looking for our insights and, you know, positive response and any, you know,
Questions.
yeah. So Lance, you had your hand up. I'm sorry.
Oh, thank you. No problem. I was just curious if, so we can capitalize on the time and there's certain things that need to be done. For instance, one of the other things is the removal of unsafe equipment that's there. That's something that we can get volunteers and things to do over the summer. And then obviously going back to the design, flagging and trail building, does the select board have any concerns with moving forward with things of that nature? Or are there certain things, let's say the school district says, go ahead, start developing your trails, start clearing some of the old structures. Are there things of that nature that we should take into consideration before moving forward with the design and removal and trail building aspects?
Well, my sense is that no, if the district says okay, then you're good to go.
Mhm.
What
Yeah.
about other members?
I'd agree with that. Yeah.
Yeah, I trust that you guys are of the best intentions, that you know the school body better than any of us do, and that you're, creating this umbrella that includes the whole town is awesome, and that you're coming to us and informing us. It builds, confidence and trust.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, and I look forward to getting the survey.
Yeah. Okay. Anything else on this right now? So it looks like your next step is going to the district.
It's a survey, isn't it?
Yeah, the survey is the next step.
Survey. Okay.
And then
Then
we'll share those
The
results.
district.
Right,
Okay.
from the district.
Great.
Great.
Excellent.
Awesome. Well, great work. Thanks very much for your
Thank you.
time.
Yeah, thank
Yeah.
you.
Thank you all for your
Thanks a
time.
lot.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Good luck. Okay. Anything else on that? Members want to go? Okay, then let's see. We have a road foreman's report. And let's see, Terry, do you want to?
Would you like me? I'll read it. He put one in writing. So on Nourse Hollow Road, he installed 4 under drains crossing the road. They were put in places where there was standing water going over the road and getting close to over the road. This is a class 3 road, so we get the same funding from the state as Houghton Road. However, I should have waited until summer. I'm in favor of the Conservation Commission making the map of the town, the sensitive areas for wildlife. We are working with A&R on a solution. He's also helping Putney finish up the sand, cleaning out culverts, grading, and cleaning up trees from storm on May 15th. There was approximately 10 trees that went down.
Okay. So yes, the NRC did
A&R.
A&R.
A&R did give him a very detailed blueprint for maintenance and maintaining the road, and so it has the least impact on the wetlands and habitat along the road, and so seems to be good with that. And so I think going forward, some of the concerns that have been raised by people should be addressed, I think.
A&R is,
Agency of Natural
Agency of
Resources.
Natural Resources.
Yeah. Thank you.
Is that Rebecca, the organization?
Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah, she heads up the wetland division.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
One of the, as you know, the Conservation Commission submitted a set of recommendations to us. And I'm wondering whether, one of which was to make a map of sensitive areas and share that with the road foreman. I'm wondering if it would be helpful, desirable to have a motion that sort of encouraging the Conservation Commission to make that map and sensitive wildlife areas, and then share it with the road with the select board and the road foreman. Does that make sense?
Sure. Why don't you make that motion?
Okay, so I'd like to make this motion that the board encourages the Dummerston Conservation Commission to make a map of of the town, identifying sensitive areas for wildlife, and to share that information with the road foreman.
Yeah, I'd say with the select board
Oh,
and the
pardon me,
road
yes,
foreman,
with the select board and the road foreman, yes.
I would second that.
Okay, any discussion?
Was there a second?
Yes.
Geraldine seconded.
Carolyn,
Sorry.
Okay, any discussion?
So if Lee is, I mean, do we need to do this? Because Lee has already said in his report that he was in favor of it. I mean, I don't know why we would need a motion, and it's actually in our town plan for the Conservation Commission to do this anyway. I'm not sure why we would need another additional motion.
Does it hurt?
I'm not sure why. I think it's unnecessary.
Well, the only reason I suggested it is that it sort of it encourages liaison between the Conservation Commission and the Select Board and the road foreman. It's sort of a friend of the court thing, really. In some ways, it's just to say, yeah, we're on board with that. But you know, if the board doesn't feel it's necessary or it's redundant, then we could just convey the sense of the board, you know, in a phone call. But you know,
I think we can convey it by a phone call personally, but because it is redundant.
It
But-
is, yeah.
Well, so Paul, you have your hand raised.
I didn't know at what point I should try to make a comment, but I'm particularly concerned or interested in Nourse Hollow Road as the bulk of the wetland is on our property. I know there's some on Maria's property, and but I, as a comment to your current motion, I think it lends a kind of a official imprimatur to that the select board is not only assenting to doing it, but it's doing it. You know, it's saying, yes, this is very good. It's in the record. I would encourage the select board to vote for that, even if it is redundant. It's sort of saying, yeah, we agree, we should do this. So that's my comment on it.
Yeah.
Thank you, Paul. Yeah, I mean, I feel, oh, I'm sorry, Zeke.
No, go ahead.
I think that the situation that arose shows that we need some redundancy. You know, if everything existed before, that would have, you know,
prevented this from happening.
yeah, right, prevented this from happening, we wouldn't even be having this conversation. But it appears to me that we need some redundancy and some emphasis in this particular situation.
Yeah. Yes, Lee has said he'd like this. And so this motion sort of instructs the Conservation Commission to go ahead and provide, go ahead and make the maps, provide them to the town road foreman and the select board. And so it may be redundant, but it's, I agree, it's somewhat symbolic act to say, yeah, let's go ahead with this and move on. So is there any other discussion? Okay, all those in favor of the motion?
Aye.
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 Opposed?
Aye.
Okay. All right, there. David, do you want to go ahead and let the Conservation Commission know to go ahead with that map?
I will.
Okay, and Terry, would you let Lee know that you've asked
Yes.
the Conservation Commission to go ahead with that map?
Okay.
Great. And Paul, you had something to add?
Well, yeah, I wanted to join the meeting because I wanted to hear the select board's discussion about Nourse Hollow Road. I actually had a comment that I wanted to make to the select board as a, I didn't know when you were going to ask for it as a public comment, but it was an item not on your agenda, but it was just
Okay.
a general thought that I
I
had.
was just going to ask right now, so go ahead, Paul.
Oh, okay. Well, my comment revolves around the current times that we're in, you know, the unusual situation that the whole state of Vermont and the whole country is in, and the economic ramifications of that. And I noticed that the governor did sign S-344, I guess last week, the day after your select, well, I don't know if it, no, on the 14th, it wasn't right after your select board meeting. But he did sign S-344, which, as your minutes indicated, gave you three alternatives, three possible avenues of dealing with the economic situation. One was to not have penalties and interest on late payments on taxes, and two was to well, I forgot the three, but the other one that I was thinking about, it gives you the authority to reduce the budget, and that's the one I'm appealing to you on at this point. Is that currently next year's budget is geared to have a 13% increase on the municipal tax rate, and or the amount of taxes raised will be 13% higher than the previous year. And that's a pretty onerous burden for a lot of people, some, whether they're on income sensitivity or whether they're not on income sensitivity. A lot of people's incomes are going to be devastated during this recent period and ongoing for some time. And I would encourage the select board to take their sharp pencil and red pencil and do what it can to reduce the impact on the taxes for the subsequent year. I know there are any number of areas that you could approach, but you know, that's in your bailiwick, but I would encourage you to do that. So
Okay,
that's
Paul. Yep, great. And actually, this is on our agenda a little further down under new business, but you sort of primed the pump for that.
Okay. If I may comment on Nourse Hollow Rd, though,
Sure.
I didn't, doing these out of sequence, I guess, a little bit. We were notified of that Nourse Hollow Rd situation as a result of the lady who wrote the letter to the select board and to the Conservation Commission, I believe. And I met with David down there in Lee, and I know it's a class 3 road. At one point in time, this was as a result of actually Steve Glayback approached me some years ago and asked if Jody and I objected to closing the road because, and I said, well, I didn't want to close it, but I didn't mind if it was, you know, and he said, well, how about gating it? You know, I said, I wouldn't mind a gate. I said, I didn't want to see the classification of the road changed, but being a pent road or subject to gates and bars was fine with me. There was a lot of issues going on down that road. People were leaving trash. There were drug deals going on at the time. And the gate certainly seems to have done its job in terms of that, because there's there's little trash being left on the side of the road. I virtually don't see any anymore. But that, at the time, I was under the impression, and I may be wrong, but and I mentioned this to David, but I didn't say I may be wrong. But I didn't think the town was reimbursed. I was under the impression at the time that the town would lose its state aid on that portion of the road that wasn't maintained. Now, I can't prove that, and I don't know if it has taken place or not. But regardless, if you look at what the state aid to the town is, so if you look at your budget, it's like $127,500 $1,000 you get from the state for state aid for counting all your class 2 and Class 3 roads. And given the fact that you've got 62 miles of road in town, it works out to about $2,000, or a hair over $2,000 per mile that you get for maintenance. Now, that certainly doesn't cover maintenance in the roads in town, as you know. But my point is, much of this money is spent at the discretion of the select board and the road foreman as to where you spend your money. And I just don't see the need for putting a whole lot of money and effort into like Nourse Hollow Road. And I would just encourage you to, think about that. And because it's not a travel road, even though it's a Class 3 and it's supposed to be not habitable, but drivable by a pleasure vehicle 12 months of the year. Fact is, you don't plow it except only for about 3/10 of a mile, about 2/10 of a mile on Maria's side, and about 1/10 of a mile on the north end. So you don't spend a lot of money on the road, and there's no real great need to spend it doing other stuff on it, like this kind of stuff that was done last week or the week before. I can't remember when it was done, and so I just wanted to pass that on. And I thought that frankly, I don't like the use of a flail mower to use, and you've heard me say this at town meeting, to clear the brush on sides of the road. It just doesn't make for a very attractive job. And a number of people have commented to, when I mention it to people, they say, "You're right, it's ugly." And it really doesn't do anything for the town of Dummerston if we do that, do the brush on the sides of the road in that manner. So thank you.
Great. Okay. All right, so more food for thought. Any comments from the members? Okay, thank you, Paul.
Yeah, okay. I will leave you. That's all I had in mind, but thank you very much.
You're welcome to stay. Let's move on to correspondence for information. Is there anything anyone would like to discuss?
I can just throw it in here because it's under the daily coronavirus updates. When we have that food distribution, there's going to be one next week at Brattleboro High School. It's Wednesday from 10 to 2. They really want to get the word out to people that please use the South Main Street area to go up through. They're the last 2 food distributions they've done, they've had unbelievable amount of people, and they're trying to get the word out. And I did let Bill Schmidt know through Dummerston Cares, because I figured he knew about it, so they could let that word go out that way too. And Lori's going to put a little email out town-wide to let people know.
Great. Okay. Anything else under correspondence for information? Okay, moving on to new business. Let's see, we had a nuisance dog complaint up on the west side of town, and we issued a fine for this nuisance dog, and we'll see, they have 21 days to appeal this fine if they so choose, and then we would meet to consider that. If otherwise, we'll just keep this dog on our radar.
Right. There's been no new complaints since then.
Yeah.
And I spoke to Lori this afternoon, and she has not gotten anything back from him or anything at all. No calls or nothing as of today.
Great. Okay. We'll still have a few weeks to go. So.
Right. Exactly.
Yep. And then moving on, we have S344 bill regarding property taxes for discussion. Terry, what do you have on that?
So this is what Paul kind of explained it, the three different criteria for this that we got to look at, to take under advisement. So I have asked Charlotte, and she hopes to get it to us by Friday, an idea of how much, if we took it out, we do not have the new grand list done yet. But what amount, if say at a certain amount, what would it drop the taxes would be, and to give us some ideas. So the state is encouraging all towns to go through your budget and to see if there's anything that you possibly could take out, not take out, examine the interest and penalty. It wouldn't be a penalty, there's no penalties until February, but the interest, or do we want to change the date of when the taxes are due? So my thought is we could get this information from Charlotte and possibly next Wednesday have a budget work session and give us some chance to go through the budget, everybody, and say, hey, do we really need this? Is it going to be worth it if we took out this amount, or how much would it be where it'd make a substantial change? And we have a discussion with it with Charlotte and Lori.
Okay.
I think that's a good idea.
Are people available for next Wednesday?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
I think I am.
Okay, so
I
this
am.
would be a work session. It would be open to the public, but and we would not be able to vote on anything.
Right.
Right.
But it would give us a chance to have a discussion like we do in our normal budget.
Right, right.
Right.
So if everyone were to review the budget, it might be good to, if there's something you see that you want to propose, we might want to maybe have our meeting and then discuss if we do have any thoughts of cutting anything. We might take some time to maybe go to the committee or the commission or stakeholders on that item, budget item, and go over it with them in light of these possible changes and that we might make. Just
So
try to get some involvement in it.
yeah, does the legislation say that we have the authority to just make these changes without getting town approval?
Right, exactly. This is something that came through the Governor Scott sign. This is normally you would have to have a special town meeting to drop something out of your budget. This is taking it to just to the select board level and saying, okay, and that's all the action that needs to be taken.
Okay, so I guess what I would ask is that I'm definitely in support of a work session next Wednesday. I'm available. But I would want some context for scale. What I want to avoid is, nitpicking on little bits, like for it to make a difference, how much would we need to take out of the budget?
That's what Charlotte's working on. She's starting at like a low number and then going, and I asked her, give us a number where you can really see where, based on our old grand list, we don't have the new one, where this is where you really want to aim to if you really want to make a significant drop in the budget. So, I mean, and then we can play in between, but yes, that's what I'm asking her for.
Well, what we want is a significant impact on the taxes.
That's exactly what I'm asking. Yeah. So if we took out, for say, I'm not saying this is the number, but if we took out, say, 60,000, you'd see a significant drop on the municipal side of the taxes. Then you've got a number to shoot for, and then we can sit and say, is this possible?
Yeah.
It may not be.
Good.
It may be.
Perfect. Yeah.
Yes.
I think we're all on the same page.
Right. But while we're going to have Lori and Charlotte in on this anyway, we're going to need to, because we need their input in terms of the billing. What about the interest? What they think about that? while we're doing that, if we could just take a few minutes, if nobody minded, and just grab a quick personnel group with the listers and Roger while he's here to get a sense of where they're at, because things are starting to become more fluid in terms of things are opening up, and see where everybody's comfortable at with the opening stage, because the next stay-at-home order, if he's going to amend anything, would be on the 14th, and that, we don't know what it's going to be, but workplaces are coming online. So what is that going to mean, and how can we maybe possibly get more people to, Roger to come in more and get their all sense? We had this at the beginning. I think it's time to just get a whole idea of where everybody's at and how they feel. Because it's going to be a while before we're going to have select board meetings in the building.
Yep.
So
Okay.
does anybody have a problem with having them join us at the beginning?
No, none at
Oh,
all.
okay.
That's a good idea.
Okay.
And so would we have it be a 6 o'clock meeting?
Yeah.
Our normal time?
Sure. Okay.
Okay, and
Um,
the same link will work.
Okay. Perfect.
Okay.
Okay.
But then we
So
can get
I-
a sense from Jean also, sorry, Maria, sense from Jean where she is at with the grand list and when she thinks she'll have it done too. That'll give us a little bit of insight too on the lister side.
So Maria, would you be able to just warn this meeting?
Yes, I'll type up a quick agenda, and I can send it to you, Zeke, before I send it to Lori to post if you want.
Right.
So we're gonna do a personnel meeting at 6, and then follow with a budget work session.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. And
Okay.
back to that budget discussion, just, I remember Joe Cook saying one time that, the municipal budget was about 15% of, a resident's tax bill. 85% was the school budget. So when we are thinking about making cuts, and we can cut, but I'm glad Charlotte will give us some information, because if we make cuts here and there and it results in tax bill being lowered by $3, it's not going to be worth it. So
No.
that's something to consider.
But it's really important that we do it and we look at it, and I think that's a important effort,
Our due diligence, yes.
our due diligence,
Exactly.
exactly.
Our
Great.
fiduciary responsibilities.
There you go. That's
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah. Now, Charlotte did let us know that the next the next payroll, making sure everyone got a full week compensation. We're good for this warrant. Was it the next one?
It's the next one that we would be we only did it till the end of May, so it'd be this
Okay.
warrant. Well, it actually probably half of May and 1 week into June
Okay.
for the next warrant.
Okay. And apparently it hasn't been a problem with people getting their hours, but do you want to extend that into the next pay period? What would you
Yeah,
like?
I mean,
to do?
I don't think things have changed enough that,
I think we should go one more pay period, and then I think by then we might know where we're headed as to what direction we're going in. I mean, it's changing by every other day, and it's moving forward, but let's do it one more pay period.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Okay, is that a motion in a second by any chance?
go for it. Tim.
Sure.
It is.
Yeah. Okay, Maria, you got that?
Yeah, who seconded it? Terry made the motion.
David.
David,
Okay.
all right. Any discussion? All those in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. All right. Does anyone else have any other new business?
Maria?
I'll make a motion, we adjourn.
Oh, And that's what the,
Thank you. Thank you all.
we saw the light on, we were waiting for somebody to say something.
Yeah, I was looking for something profound, but I guess I'll
Yeah,
take-
see, the thing is, Maria, what you don't understand is when you make any movements or anything, your little light, your box goes on. So we think you're gonna say something.
Oh,
You can't-
not just when I talk. So I
Yeah.
could be waving to you guys and it goes off? Oh,
Well, you
Yeah.
scratch the phone a little bit and you can, and we think we don't know if you're gonna say something, so you can't
Oh,
see it,
okay.
that's why. So we were thinking you had something else.
Okay.
well,
but we-
did I get a second to that?
Sure.
Okay, great.
See you next Wednesday.
All right, see you next Wednesday.
Okay, thanks, everyone.
Bye-bye.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.